Hello and welcome to Temple of Akasha, the home of embodied spirituality with me, Natasha. Let's talk about cultivating inner knowing. We're living in a time of immense amounts of noise pollution, energetic pollution, a time when our nervous systems often feel maxed out and overwhelmed, a time when there are many different sources claiming to know truth, shouting about what's right. And there is a point on our spiritual journey when the soul has matured enough beyond the need to outsource truth to external sources, when we feel this guidance to pull our power back from needing to rely on certain teachers, guides, modalities, systems, ways of being outside of ourselves, so that we can truly cultivate a deep inner listening and knowing. And this has been a process that has really emerged for me very strongly since last summer, so for about 9 months or so. And I have noticed that many others are also going through this process, and I wanted to speak about it and why we feel this pulling back from perhaps listening to certain teachers, energy updates, perhaps certain modalities and systems like tarot or astrology or any other means through which we might try and source information and knowing. I personally have felt this real consolidation of my energy where my soul has been calling me to become much more boundaried with my time, with my energy, with my awareness. And there has just been this natural disillusion where I've not felt a need to listen to, watch, or absorb external information in the same way, even through books. And the deeper invitation at a soul level when this happens, when we feel this natural pulling away from the external world, because this happens many times on our spiritual journey, we'll move from these periods of expansion to a more contracted internal state. This soul invitation here is to become more self-sourced. And this is particularly crucial for this time on Earth, as the age of Aquarius dawns, as we enter the age of information. We are entering a time when the external world is going to get very noisy. There will be many sources claiming to know truth, shouting about truth. There will be a lot of information coming from us from many angles, both physically, in terms of the news, in terms of other people sharing their perspective in this globalized world, with social media, etc., but also energetically. You know, there is an increasing amount of noise energetically, you know, with the amount of content non-physically that we're always being exposed to, you know, especially with the severing from a more simple way of life. Modern life really encourages us to be very exposed to a lot of content. And what this does, if our focus is too external, is that it pulls us from our center. It pulls us out of our ability to listen deeply to our own inner guidance, to our own connection to the One, to God, Goddess, to Source, to our soul's knowing. And it actually disempowers us. And so there comes a point on the journey, and we may go through many cycles of this, many spirals of deepening into this, when we pull away from needing to absorb external information and we start feeling a need to become more consolidated within, to become more attuned to our own inner guidance, to our own felt sense experience, to how we're personally receiving the present moment and what that means for us at a personal level. You know, there are absolutely positive and virtuous qualities to enhancing our understanding of the world through certain systems, modalities, practices, etc. They help to expand us. But there can come a point in our journey when we outsource our ability to know truth to certain systems or people or ways of being. And during this age of information, during the age of Aquarius, which is really calling us into more sovereign states, we must become aware of all the ways in which we've subtly tipped into codependency with these sources, the ways in which we need our tarot updates or our energy updates or our absorption of what's happening with the astrology to feel empowered. Can we recognize that our being knows beyond any mental or cognitive knowing, that there is a gnosis within the heart, there is a gnosis of the soul, there is a gnosis when we connect to the source that is superior and far beyond any knowing that we can absorb externally. And this feels very important to share now, because the external world, during the collapse of the old ways, during the collapse of this very insidious fear-based matrix that has been woven into this plane, that we've all been absorbed to some degree, that we've kind of been born into, there is a need at this time to recognize that infrastructure, knowing that the end is nigh for it, is going to get very loud in the ways in which it tries to distract us and pull us out of center and out of sovereignty. I was shown the visual yesterday that we are entering the time of rapture, the time of reckoning is upon us. And I don't mean that in the strictly biblical sense, because the biblical sense has certain connotations about the second coming of a Messiah, which I feel is ill-informed and misinformed, misunderstood. The true apocalypse, which means the time of revelation, the true rapture, is a time when ultimate truth reveals itself, when the godly nature of our being is called forwards. And we can either answer that call, or we can still choose to remain unconscious and therefore aligned with the shadow and darkness of this world. And I was told through a visioning and oracular state yesterday that God's children will be protected during this time. And what that means is, if we've been diligent with our spiritual work and we continue to align ourselves with the heart, that our loyalty and allegiance is to love, to truth, to true freedom, then our souls are intact and are protected. And I was shown in this visual, this kind of enmeshed, insidious way that the darkness has infiltrated the earth plane and has sought to maintain control here, to diminish our human and divine potential, to keep us really stuck in fear-based narratives and ways of being. And that there is a separation that is happening now. There is a divergence, and that the darkness is being extracted. And this is being seen on the world stage through many revelatory news pieces around certain very public, famous figures being exposed for being involved in quite dark, deviant behavior. This will only increase. But like a feral animal cornered, the darkness won't go down without a fight. And that is why our inner discernment and our inner vision and our inner knowing, our gnosis, is really important at this time, especially with the burgeoning presence of AI and the ability to manipulate our experience of reality with virtual reality, with artificial intelligence, deep fakes, etc. If we don't cultivate an ability to listen deeply to truth within, we could very well get pulled into distortions and cul-de-sacs and dead ends that are not actually serving our souls, that are not actually in integrity. So we're really moving away from this time that was adopted during the age of Pisces, the last 2,500 years, where humanity's desire to merge with the divine was so great that we handed our power over to gurus, teachers, messiahs. Yeshua is such a pure example of this, a conduit, a being that was reflecting back to humanity a truth that they weren't able to fully comprehend at that time about the nature of Christ consciousness. And so humanity, in its desire to merge, outsourced the ability to merge with the divine, to commune with the divine, to others, to priests, to teachers, to gurus, to systems, to modalities. That was a necessary part of our evolutionary process. We were like children then, spiritually. We needed the support, the structure, the hierarchy to be led. But it feels very important to recognize that this time we're moving into now is a time of healthy individuality, a time to divorce ourselves from these codependent ways of being, these ways of relying on others to source truth, to know truth, to feel secure, and to recognize that the true source of truth and safety and security and love is our divine heavenly mother and father, mother, father, God, God, goddess, source creator, whatever term you choose to apply to this divine intelligence that orchestrates our world into being. That is our true source. No one person, place, modality, system can ever replace that. And it's really important for us to spiritually mature, to become more spiritually evolved during this time now. We're like teenagers being asked to, start standing on our own 2 feet, start really developing a discernment, an ability to move through this world unaided, without needing to lean on certain crutches. We might stumble a few times, that's okay. It's important that we keep going, that we develop resilience, that we develop devotion to listening to the one, that we start aligning and realigning with the path of love again, the path of the heart again, after thousands of years of severing, deliberate severing from our spiritual nature. This is a time of deep integration. And so if you find yourself being pulled away from listening to external information, certain teachers, guides, you find that you're perhaps feeling overwhelmed when you listen to certain sources, there may be an energetic invitation now to just pull your energy back. What would it feel like to just start listening within moment to moment? Get used to the way in which you receive information. Become familiar with the ways in which you receive intuition and what gnosis feels like to you. It's going to be a life buoy and an aid during this choppy time of transition for humanity, when we're going to really need to be able to discern truth. Because the distractions and the distortions will only be amplified at this time as those that are very intent on aligning with darkness, very intent on maintaining control and power and governance over humanity in a way that's not helpful, healthy, or empowered, they will seek to really ramp up their efforts during this time, and they will have the technological means to do so. This being the age of Aquarius, very associated with innovation, progression, and technology. As I've mentioned in previous videos, the lower expression of that is the misuse of technology to control and manipulate. So that is one of the risks that is posed with this burgeoning presence of AI and technology on the planet, that if we do not have a solid understanding and connection to truth and to being able to move through our reality with autonomy, with integrity, with clarity, with discernment, we could very easily be pulled away from our center, away from our knowing, and into less empowered dynamics, systems, etc. There are many beings, physically and non-physically, that are trying to find and harvest vulnerable people and their energy that they can siphon energy from, fear-based energy from. And that's not to scare anyone, it's just to recognize that love and your connection to the divine is your protection. When you become self-sourced, when you really establish your connection to God, Goddess, you are uncorruptible. You are untouchable. That is your armor. That is your shield. We are living during the end times, not apocalyptic or Armageddon-like in the way that we see in the movies necessarily, although I do believe that there will be immense change, transformation, potentially catastrophic events that happen on the planet. But this is not a time of total destruction and disillusion. I believe that this is a time when we really get to decide the outcome. But for us to experience the birthing of a world and its higher potential, we must keep choosing that vibrational nature within ourselves. And so keep listening within. Trust your own gnosis. Keep developing a connection to your own inner knowing. It is vital during this time of great transition. And this is actually, for me, an incredibly exciting time to be incarnated on Earth right now. Because the reckoning is here. There have been dark forces that haven't had humanity's or Gaia's best interests at heart. They have had strong footholds here on Earth for a long time. But what they fail to acknowledge and remember is that nothing and no one is greater than the force, power, intelligence, and love of the one true source. You can't outrun your karma, and you cannot outmaneuver the one. That is our protection. And I say protection in the sense that it's our soul that's at stake right now. It's being severed from our souls, feeling disembodied, being used and harvested by lower forces and energies. It's the soul that's at stake. The way in which you remain married to the soul's gnosis, you become embodied and truly connected to your soul's wisdoms, gifts, potential, as a conduit, as a divine child of God, Goddess, is by continuing to listen deeply, move courageously, live from love, speak your truth. Do not bend or waver for anyone or anything if it goes against your inner knowing. This world has been created with many traps to entrap and ensnare the soul. This is a time of great spiritual maturation now. Can you become solid, pillar-like, ray-like in your ability to not waver on what is right and true for you? To not let the judgments, opinions, expectations of anything or anyone around you move you from your center. That is the divine invitation right now. So I'm wishing you so much love, so much resilience and courage as all of us walk this path home to love, to union, within and without. Take great care during these times. Trust your inner knowing. Outsource your power and truth to no one, not me, not any guide on the internet, not any guru that you have followed. Use every single being and piece of information that you interact with as a mirror to gauge your own understanding of truth. That's why we incarnated into a duality-based plane, to use contrast and polarity to understand ourselves more deeply. Thank you for being here with me today. It's been a pleasure to connect with you, and I look forward to communing with you again really soon.